Good morning. We're going to do this wonderful scene. This is a very iconic scene at Burnham's boatyard in Essex. So here's the photo. Wonderful. That boat is the subject. Look at where it is, position it. Now, when starting the drawing, what I usually do is establish the horizon to give us a sense of whether or not this is going to be a sky painting, a sky scope, or a landscape. So obviously it's going to be a landscape with a boat in it. So I drew that line across as the horizon. I used the top of the board, put my fingers on, help with that long line. That's the bottom of those trees and the buildings and all that stuff in the back. All right, very light. Notice how I'm holding that pencil, very light. I draw some light circles to establish the size of the boat, the size of my subject, whatever you're painting. So, and how it fits onto your paper. You want it to sit comfortably into your paper so the viewer can see it. All right. So, if you're having trouble with this angle, if you line your photo up with the side of the paper so that you know it's level, put your pencil on the angle and then just move it over, and that will establish the angle. And notice where it ends on the top of the photo. Same thing on the tipped angle. That will really help you to establish that angle. So there's the cross we're looking at. Okay. All right. So we want to establish the bow of the boat, and that. Look at the front, the distance between the bow, the front, and the back. Put that pencil. We're going to establish the height of the bow, and I'm just sort of eyeballing it there according to my circle, according to how big I want the boat. So now you put the tip of the pencil against the back of the boat and your finger against the bow, so that gives you the distance. Then you compare it to the boat. So it comes down to about there. All right, so we're going to take our bow about there, and there's the back of the boat. Okay, notice where that back corner of the boat is. If you plumb a line straight down, it's to the left of the bow. Okay, get that circle, goes out, comes back in, and comes up. All right, goes out, then it comes up to the bow. Same thing on the other side, and it's symmetrical. You want that looks a little bit off, so I'm just gonna cut it down. But there's the center. You want those sides to be symmetrical. So that looks like mine is a little bit off there. So I'm gonna come in just a touch. Okay. All right. So there's our boat. Then the sides are perpendicular. They're coming down to our angle. Okay. It curves around, goes in, and then comes back out on both sides. We got a break here on this left side because it's in deep shadow and you can't even see it, and it's stuck in the mud anyway. Okay. All right. So here's our angle. It's pretty much in line. The masts are pretty much in line with that angle. All right. So we're looking at the boat on the left here. Where it starts, it's a straight line on the back. Okay, comes down. The left side of the boat will go out. Again, it's symmetrical with the other side. Goes out a certain ways. The bow of this boat is a little different. It's a flat panel. Has these two ridges on top. Okay, it's a little bit bigger than that, but it's okay. All right. Think of a figure 8 when you do this. See how it goes around, comes around the back, and then comes right back in. Okay, so that establishes the top of the boat. It's pretty much look at the bottom of the boat, the height, and draw a plumb line across to your other boat, see where it ends. Again, that's in deep shadow, so we're lucky there. It's going to be easy to do. All right, we have another small boat over here. I'm not going to give that too much attention. I'm going to eliminate the mass on it. And so that's very simple. It goes up in the back, little figure, little circle. It's like an ellipse. Comes into the front of the bow. Same thing, little side to it. Curves down, meets the front. Symmetrical with the other side. Okay? All right, so that should help you a lot. Just getting an idea where these grasses are coming in. All right, in the back, I want to take a little time to suggest these buildings. This is in the back. Now, this is not very important. We just want to, depends on how much you want to establish this as a village back there. That's actually 133 in the back. You know, that's another boatyard back there. But there are a bunch of buildings. Don't try to draw. I mean, I don't know. I don't take the time to, you know, it's not that important to me to identify each building and so forth. So I'm just drawing shapes, just houses and buildings. You know, they're commercial buildings. They have big long roofs and, you know, big windows. So I'm just looking to get some sort of a sense of a village back there. Some basically rooftops with little buildings, and when we paint that, you'll see, you know, you could literally paint a straight blue line of cobalt blue across there, and that would be enough. You don't need all this stuff, but I'm going to go through it for you on this painting because I know you want to. Okay, so there's the village, there's our tree line, and there's our painting, all set to go. All right, let's start painting this thing. I wet the sky. I'm just going to use some cobalt blue up there, maybe a little touch here of Windsor blue. I like to put that in the sky and mix them because it's a nice summer sky. Don't do too much detail up there, just let it come down. We got so much going on the bottom of this painting. We don't want up top to be very busy. All right, I'm putting in the tree line while that sky is coming down. It's still wet. All I did was add raw sienna to my Windsor blue sky there. I had plenty of paint in my palette, so I just added some raw sienna to it and gave me a nice tone. All right, so we're painting negative shapes around those rooftops. Very simple, you know, don't get into a lot of detail. Just very simple tree line. There's a building on the left, so I went over to the building, and now I'm just, again, just going through the, you know, making the tree line a little bit irregular. You know, variety is a big part of beautiful paintings, having a nice variety. All right, just go along. You know, don't even look. You don't even have to look at your photo here. Just make stuff up. But you know what it is. It's a village, and it's all rooftops. This is actually a boatyard. We're going to add a few boats in there. All right, I took just some cobalt blue with a touch of rose. So I just made it a shadow color. I'm going to paint the side. The light is coming from our left side and left, right. So the front of these buildings are going to be in shadow. And one building's casting a little shadow on the other. Okay, just going across here. And I'm keeping it all the same basically because I want harmony back there, and I don't want anything jumping out at me. I don't want anything too important that's going to draw our eye back there. We want to keep looking at the boat when we do these two big boats in the front. All right, so just, you can see I'm just linking, try to link the shadows when you can. Okay. All right, I'm going to put a little, this is literally a drop of raw sienna, just to add a little bit of color to the whites, a little bit on the rooftop, just going along where the white is showing and adding a little variety, a tiny bit of, all right, just add that, you know, little touches of color there. I mix a drop of quinsienna into my blue and created this little gray, and I'm just going to make some of these rooftops a gray tone. Not all of them, but just some of them, and keeping it very mild. I'm not, you know, not too dark. Take your time, create a nice little village back there. All right, I added some more quinacridone sienna, made it a brownish tone. So you can see in the back there, there's a whole, that whole strip is sort of a wharf. You know, it's a place where boats are launched and tied up. So it's all, you know, has access to the Essex River there. So I'm just going along creating this sense of a wharf with this color. It's a brownish tone. And just going along filling in these white spaces. Okay. I created a little boat there. You can see it peeking up. You know, it's just going to be all little odds and ends back there, but keep it very simple, you know, very simple. All right, I'm adding these, there's a couple of telephone poles there. They're nice, they, you know, create a nice sense of village life, and it's just a lot of fun. Okay? This little stuff. Slow you down and take your time with this stuff. It's not, you know, it's actually a painting back there, isn't it? You know, if you look at that background, it's a painting of a village. Putting a little shadow under this boat. This boat is in the water a little bit. Same colors, cobalt blue with a touch of Windsor blue. And I'm going to create, this is the Essex River that's flowing past this whole thing. Okay, just suggesting it. All right, let's get to the boats. The boats are a lot of fun. All right, I'm putting a underpainting of raw sienna here. That'll work really well to establish a nice warm tone of black. And you know, the left side of that boat, which I painted just then, is in deep shadow. Okay. Then there's a piece over here that's muddy. You know, this boat was sunk deep into the mud, so the bottom of it's going to be very dark and wet. All right, ultramarine with quinsienna will give you that beautiful dark. I would push it a tone towards the quinsienna. Keep it nice and warm. Paint it over that raw sienna. Let it run. You know, get it wet enough so it's got a little bit of a run to it. All right, and on this side, on the right side of that boat, I'm using cobalt blue into the dark, so that's got a lot more light on it, and I want it to dry as a grayish tone, you know, and it has that nice warm tone at the top, you know, that piece of raw sienna, quinsienna, where it's left its mark. All right, on the other boat, this is a very different bow. It's flat, doesn't have that peak, but it's a flat bow, and it has a strip of black all along the top. Now, what I'm going to do here, you know, the side of the boat has a lot of light on it, so what you want to do is paint this dark black roughly to the middle. Okay, and then there's a strip of gold, and then there's another strip of black here. So let me clean that up. So I am going to go in and put the other strip of black in at the same time, leaving that little strip of white, which will eventually become gold. Okay, yeah. So I'm using water here, just water, to pull that, maybe a touch of cobalt blue in it, and that'll be that light side where the light is hitting that black and reflecting it. Same thing here, the green, there's a nice green on that boat. Also a strip of gold in between. The green is Windsor blue with raw sienna. Okay, and do the same thing, just paint it towards the middle, and then rinse out your brush and just bring that over as weak, the same color, very weak. When that dries, it'll give you a sense of light, a nice piece of light on there. All right, the side is again symmetrical, goes out and turns, then you have that nice, it's all in shadow, so you can't see the green on the other side. Then just bring it down to approximately where it ends. We have all that grass sticking up, so that's really nice. Okay. A little dark tone in there. You can see the light on the side of the boat now. All right? Okay. We don't have to be too fussy there. All right, I'm going to put some raw sienna inside the boat just to give it a little tone. Try to leave a ridge around the edge of the boat so it looks like light is hitting that ridge. That ridge is, 2 or 3 inches wide, so it's really nice and it's catching the light. And we'll do the same thing on the other boat. Just put some color in there, just raw sienna. We'll suggest some other details when this dries. All right, there's our boats. They're floating up there in the air. We'll bring them down in a while. We have another, I'm going to add a little dark. It's a little darker right there under that side, on the side of the boat. And so I'll just put a little there, and I'll put a little on the other boat as well. All right, we have this other small boat on the side. This is just using cobalt blue teal here for the color. It has a nice greenish tone to it. Basically just painting the shape of the bow. Can't see much of it, but then same thing. Rinse out your brush and paint the side of it with water. I added a little gray tone. All right, I'm going to put this building in on the side. The building is, a brownish, kind of deep raw sienna, quinsienna color of wood. I don't want it to be that important, so I'm changing it to just a blue, cobalt blue with a little touch of mud in it. Okay, little difference between this, little gray roof and a little shadow under the eave. I'll pop a window in it later when that dries. All right, this is a very important part of this painting. This is a reflective pool. So I'm painting it first with water, a lot of water. So, reflections come straight down all the time, straight down. Okay, and this is just, that water has a tiny, tiny touch of cobalt blue. And I'm adding raw sienna to it here, and I want the raw sienna to run. So I'm just bringing it down to the shape of my reflection, adding some more color to it, letting it run. A little more color, maybe a drop of quinsienna in it. Letting it come down, pick up the drips. All right, so these drips, you want it a little lighter towards the bottom, so put a nice dark in there. That's reflecting the land, the mud. So you can see you're letting it dry a little bit, as it comes down. I put a drop of cobalt blue teal reflecting that boat, and then just take a damp brush and break up that edge. You want that edge to be running. And keep it nice and wet, do a little spray if you want to. Getting over so it's darker towards the top and lighter. Now I'm just using a damp brush and picking up some of the color on the very bottom. It's very light. It starts reflecting some of the sky as it comes out there. Okay, just pick up a little bit of that drip. All right, so let that come down and see what you got. All right, I'm going to paint these rocks on the side here. Just mixed up a gray ultramarine with some little bit of quinsiena and maybe a drop of raw sienna. So just paint the big shapes, paint them all together, you know, in one shape. We'll put some shadows on in a minute. You can see I added a drop of rose in there. I put some water in that color. I just used the same color. I put some water in it very weak to establish the land there. This is the mud that's to the right of it. So you just want to just get that on, get it, you know, spray it if you have to. Very light color, but you want a little reflection in there. And I added a little bit of cobalt blue here. Just, you can see it just a touch, you know, just a shade. It might be reflecting the sky a little bit there. A little piece of mud on the back side. Okay. All right, I'm using, this is just raw sienna. Put a few horizontals in there, suggesting those covers that are on there going down, and a little bit of suggestion there. No detail. All right, let's get the grass in here. The grass is going to be just raw sienna. I'm going to cover that whole thing, all the white area, with raw sienna. Try to keep a ridge on the boats there. And then I'm actually adding some Aurelian yellow to the top, to the very edge there where it meets the water, so that the greens will be brighter. And it's getting more light back there. This is just Windsor green on the top. I want that edge to be nice and bright. And I added a drop of Windsor blue here with the yellow as it comes down, so you want it to be a little darker. You want it nice and dark and warm in the front, and that will push the light greens back. That's Windsor blue with some raw sienna in it. You can add a pinch of Aurelian yellow to it, you know. I'm going to add a little more raw sienna. And, you know, take a small brush and start. You want to get rid of that sharp edge, that hard edge there that's meeting the water. You want to get rid of it altogether and just push some grass up. Use a little bit of quinsiena there and make it stronger. But all that grass is just, you know, just push that whole edge. Get rid of that hard edge as it goes over the bank. And then goes right into the boat. Push the color right into the boat. I actually pushed that green right onto the black of the boats because it's a little bit of weeds here growing wild. I'm using that same gold color to cover the golds on the boat. Made up of black, ultramarine, quinsiena, putting the shadows on the rocks. And I'm pushing it up into the grass. The grass is coming over. Okay, let's sit these boats down now. They've been floating up in the air there. Very dark ultramarine, quinsiena, and a drop of raw sienna. I'm going to paint the initial shadow of those boats, which I said is very dark. Leave some specks of white, you know, do a lot of horizontal strokes here. Just think of the water, be the water, push the water, you know, a little shadow here on the rocks, a little bit of movement there as the water moves. And then rinse out your brush. I picked up a little bit of quinceañera here, a lot of water here. You know, as the reflection comes away from the boat, it gets very weak. So we're adding more color. Keep it nice and wet and juicy so that water is running down, just like we did on the other side. This is like reflective light. So rinse out your brush. Just pull the color right out of what you have there. Leave plenty of whites. Nice reflective color. I'm actually picking up some of the color there. All right, at this point, I'm thinking about leading the viewer into the painting. So now that reflection is very nice. I'm going to add a tiny bit of cobalt blue to that mix. So it'll be more of a grayish, but very light, extremely light, just little movement in the water here. You know, picking up a little bit of reflection here and there. All right, really nice. Let it all mix together. It leads the viewer's eye right into our boat, which is exactly where we want them to look. All right, the rocks also have some nice reflection. Just using the same warm tone there. Put a little black line on that, little detail on that back boat. Same thing, the front of it's very black, and then I'm just rinse out my brush and finish the line with water. Let the black run back. All right, I'm going to use a Mahl stick here. A lot of artists use this for, especially in oils. That draws the line for you, and then you can go in and rest your fingers on that Mahl stick. Keep the stick tight and keep your fingers, you know, at the same height so that when you draw this line, the brush doesn't bend at all. You don't want that brush bending and give you some, you know, extra wide spots. So sometimes I do this, you know, when you have these tall masts, you've heard me say many times, you know, anything tall up there is getting a lot more reflection from the sky. So sometimes I start the top of it with a cobalt blue and then work into it with a darker color. But this time I did the whole thing one color, and it's wet now, so I can easily add, just drop some cobalt blue into it and loosen up that color that's there, that brownish color. Make sure your masts are nice and, you know, strong. They take a lot of tension from the wind and so forth, so you want them to be, you know, you want them to look like they can carry the weight, you know. Okay, so I'm just dropping some cobalt blue on the top there, loosening up that color. A little more on this one. Really loosening. You see how much lighter it is up there. Okay. All right, then I'm drying my brush, so it's a moist, damp brush here, and then I'm just lifting off here and there, not the whole thing, but, you know, just a little bit here and there. You can see how much lighter it is at the top. It makes all the difference, you know. Really, it's worth taking the time and having little random spots of darkness there. You know, I'm going to make the base of this mast very, very strong and dark, and then put a drop here and there on the way up. But I keep it nice and cool at the top. All right, I'm going to drop in these. There's a lot of pilings, you know, poles sticking up out of the grass and on the edge of the water there. So I'm just putting them in randomly. Got a couple here that the boat was originally tied to. So they're all over the place here. It's just the beauty of painting these things. It's all junk. All right, I'm going to pop this window in. You know, just mixing up a gray, blue, and, you know, warm and dark will give you a gray. All right, and then I usually touch that with a towel to get a little reflective light on the window. Okay, so it's coming together. Putting some raw sienna under there to show the grass growing up against the building. Little pieces of shadow and grass on the pilings, and put some, like these masts, a lot of these boats, you can't see it in the photo, but they have these crossbars going across at the top of the mast, and they're really secure. You know, there's a lot of, they usually do it with this really heavy canvas tape, so you may not have space for that in your painting, but with a big sheet like this, I don't want to leave those poles just sticking up. It also gives us a point from which the rigging will come from, you know. All right, so get that in there nice and heavy. All right, a little color on my brush, raw sienna mixed with the blue and whatever. And I'm just running, make sure it's nice and dry so you can move your hand over all this. And just bring them out. You know, there's all kinds of rigging left on this boat. So they're just, you know, lines running from the mast down to the side of the boat where the rigging is. And you almost can't do too much of this, so there's so many lines, so much going on. It really helps tie the boat, the painting together, you know, ties the mast into the boat. All right, little pieces of rigging here. The rigging is, you know, it's like cast iron and onto the boat with a mast. It helps secure the mast, you know. The mast is under a lot of pressure from the wind and so forth. All right, I'm using some gouache. I'm going to put some boats in the background with gouache. You can add a little drop of cobalt blue in there if you want. Just a little skiff in the background, and little boats here and there. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. This is a beautiful, iconic scene in Essex, painted by hundreds of artists, if not thousands. It's always count on a shipwreck out there. Thank you so much for joining me. I will see you again very soon. Thanks for watching.